Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Buddies, Booze, Banter's Unfiltered Conversations. I am Rick.
And I'm Michael.
And I'm Alex. I'm the producer. That's me. I'm the producer.
And you're a good producer.
I'm the producer.
We can't do it without him.
That's true.
How are you, Michael?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing amazing. You look good.
Thank you. I'll take
Is this
that as a
deja
compliment.
vu? We going back to this again? I
You
mean,
just
it
feel
never
left
gets
out.
old.
But
Yeah.
not only that, nobody
wait,
ever asked me how
Hold
I am.
on. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, thanks.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, enough of that. Let's go back to me and Alex.
Afterthought.
Man, first of all, I love that blue on you.
Oh, cool.
Oh my God, get a room.
Get an apartment.
We're in my house, so upstairs.
No, we're at the pub, remember?
Oh, that's right. We're at the pub.
Well, I'm going to start off with something that I kind of found as I was doing some research that kind of blew my mind. You know, and
Your mind got blown?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird, to be honest with you. And let me preface this by saying that, you know, most things that come out of Korea, whether it be North or South, have kind of like a weird, unique twist to them. And I'm going to read little bits and pieces of it, but I'm just going to read the headline. Just say, I mean, I can't believe this because I don't understand why people would do this. So the South Korean government is asking its citizens not to eat fried toothpicks after the trend went viral in the country.
Fried toothpicks?
Fried. Now keep in mind they're not the typical wood ones. You know, obviously they're a little bit more eco-friendly than we are here in the United States. You know, so there's I guess they're made of starch or something like that. But I mean, again, it's things that you pick your teeth with, and they're actually eating them.
Well, when you said fried, I mean, basically people can eat almost anything fried. We got the State Fair of Texas, and they have the fried thing. That maybe this is going to be the next event.
Well, then let me rephrase.
Okay.
Typically, that anything comes out of the Korea, whether it be South or North and Texas, is weird when it comes to fried food.
Okay.
Okay. I just think it's odd that, you know, so again, they're made of starch, and it resembles a mini green curly fry. Green. Yeah. Well, again, obviously, I don't think it's one. It's a toothpick, and green is not appetizing for me.
No.
When it comes to food, but apparently they're saying that starch toothpicks are not an edible product. Now, this is the government. I'm assuming the health ministry or something along those lines. But I mean, apparently the trend was reportedly became popular after it was seen on a mukbang.
YouTube?
No, it's a
TikTok?
It's a social media platform they have there, which is a genre of video in which people show themselves eating excessive amounts of food or food that is considerable strange. And the reason that I want to emphasize that is, have you seen on TikTok where they Asian couples, I don't know which countries they're from. It could be from all of them, to be perfectly honest with you. And one, they either fight over the food and hide the food from each other, who gets the most. The funny thing about it is they speed up the videos. So it appears that they're like eating 10 eggs all of a sudden, and then a whole chicken all of a sudden, all these noodles all of a sudden. And they have millions and millions of followers.
Oh, my God.
I don't get it.
I'm not a follower.
Well, I'm not either. But for some reason, it keeps coming up on TikTok on my For You page. You know, I mean, it's just like, and I literally is like, I don't.
So
need
where
to see
do you
this.
go on your page to get all this stuff?
It definitely is not that, because I think it's the most stupidest thing out there. But my point being is, apparently this is the premise of where it came from.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, I just find it, you know, just oddly weird that people are deciding to eat their toothpicks. I get, you know, in America they chomp on them. You know, they chew them up.
I know they got them in their mouth.
Yeah.
They're picking their teeth and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, actually, you know, one of the I think it was SZA. I don't know what her name was. One of the musical stars. So when Noah Trevor, you know, was panned to her, talking about her.
It's about the Grammys.
Yeah, she actually had a toothpick in her mouth, chewing on it. I mean, I said to myself, do you really want to see yourself after the fact of having a toothpick and chewing in on it? I mean, I just
a toothpick or an earring?
No, it was a toothpick.
Okay.
It was a toothpick. Now,
Still don't like earrings there either, but
my assumption is that she came in with it, because I mean, it's not like they had food there. So, but anyhow, I'm going to kind of get a little bit a little controversy, as you know I like to do.
yes, totally.
Whatever.
It's your middle name.
Well, maybe, but I mean, today was wild. Let's be honest. I mean, I got up and, one of the first feeds that came off BBC News, because that's typically what I use, because apparently they're not, they're good news, meaning not like in the United States where they actually make shit up, or they're pundits and they have opinions and things of that sort. So it's just facts.
Says who?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Nothing in the United States newsworthy unless it's PBS. Right? I mean, everything else has their pundits. Everything else is talking about their opinions, and they embellish and they use like clickbait headlines and, things of that sort. So, what Michael was just pointing to there, everybody who saw him on camera, is there's actually a vote currently going on to impeach the actual Homeland Secretary Mayorkas, which we're hoping that most likely it's going to fail.
Well, it's already got 4 Republicans that said nay.
Well, I mean, pretty much that is a dead on arrival, as they like to say for the Republican side, simply because they actually have they could only lose 3 because
2.
No, 3 because Scalise is out too.
No, but I heard 2.
No, it's 3.
Okay, 3.
But because
they've got 4 now, so
yeah, but because Scalise was out because he's going through his, I think, the treatment for his blood cancer. They've already lost it. So this resolution to impeach Secretary Mayorkas has failed as of now. So
they'll try again.
Which again, it's a political stunt, to be perfectly honest with you. And the actual at least 2 of the Republicans on the Republican side, rep side, who actually came out and basically said that there are issues that we have.
And it's official now. It failed.
Yeah, they actually said
but they'll try it again.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they have the again.
It doesn't matter. They just want the publicity.
But they presented no. They don't want the embarrassment if it fails again. And if these 4 Republicans actually vote against it, that's an embarrassment because that means Mike Johnson, the Speaker, cannot control his caucus.
Who said he could in the first place?
Well, that's the whole. I mean, we did it on the Democrat. The Democrats did it on their side. The thing about that with Nancy Pelosi was she never took a vote to the floor unless she knew she had the votes.
Totally.
Which I mean, they just don't get it. I mean, if they want to play politics, that's the way to play politics.
But they're trying to do something that just doesn't make sense to the majority of the people.
Well, I think that, with the headlines that we currently have out there is like, let's go ahead and impeach the Homeland Secretary of Mayorkas because he's not shutting down the border. But, oh, my gosh, we have a bipartisan bill from the Senate that actually provides $118 billion to shut down the border. Oh, it's dead on arrival.
Yep.
I mean, the hypocrisy that we have. I mean, literally, when Speaker Johnson went to the floor last week and had this laundry list of things which were basically excuses as to why he's saying that he's not. And this was even before it was published because it wasn't published until today. And he basically said, it's dead on arrival. It's like you don't even know the actual information, the words that are actually in the actual bill. So, but let's kind of talk about the big elephant that came out today. And, obviously we've been waiting for a particular case to be decided in appeals court. And that is whether or not former President Trump has full immunity for any and all potential crimes that he may have committed in office, now the fact that he's a civilian. And, of course, they came out unanimously and said he does not. And apparently it was such a well-written decision. It's going to be very difficult to appeal.
Well, he's going to try because ultimately he has until Monday to go to the Supreme Court.
Well, to file something, I mean, he has 2 paths. He can still appeal to the full court. They can refuse, obviously, which they're anticipated to do.
But they also said is if you appeal to the full appellate court, we're not going to stay this. We're not going to let you stay this decision.
Right. I mean, obviously,
that means his trial then could go ahead and
right.
go.
The judge can actually then set a date. Because obviously, last week is when he set an indefinite date. He postponed it, obviously.
Yep.
Now that the immunity decision has been decided on the appeals court, obviously that can come back into play. And because there's not going to be a stay, so be it. But the point being is, it's all about the tactic of stalling. I mean, let's be honest. It's kind of funny, and I get what he's doing. He's trying to stall it to the point where he hopes he gets reelected, so
And
he
he
can make
can
it all
stop
go,
all this
Well, he
stuff.
can make it all go away.
Yeah.
Sweep it on the rug and says, "Yep, that is what it is." I think you mentioned, obviously, about an hour or so ago when we were talking a little bit about this, that he's been on his social media truth.
Yes.
And what was it exactly what he was saying on there?
Oh God, what was it? Keep presidential immunity.
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of go back on that our last political podcast about that.
I mean, his followers are going to eat it all up and say, "Oh yeah," but it's like if presidents had all this immunity that Trump wants, then Biden could go and shoot and kill Trump.
First of all, Biden wouldn't do that. Although
I know, but he could.
But apparently, he is a good hunter. But obviously, he could actually assign it to somebody and take out his political opponent one way or the other. And
then it's like, oh, I got presidential immunity.
Yeah,
it's
because,
like
I mean-
it's something that just doesn't make sense, and the majority of the people do not think that should be true. It's like if you do something,
there's nobody who's above the law 100%.
no.
I mean,
Trump keeps saying all this stuff is.
well, again,
He's got followers that will believe it and go with it.
because he's been led to believe he's the prophet, that God has put him down here. Now, he's never been a religious man. He's not a religious man.
No.
He's never, even though he said he's read the Bible so many times, he's never read the Bible. I mean, he can't even hold it straight up.
If holding it to your head, does that mean reading it?
Upside down.
Oh, yeah.
Let's remind that upside down. So
Yes.
I read something about that recently, and it was really kind of talking about how his daughter Ivanka had been trying to rehabilitate herself, and apparently, standing in front of that church after removing all those Black Lives Matter protesters was her idea. I thought that was very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, very interesting. Because
She's been keeping a low profile after.
well, that was definitely a suggestion that just fell flat. I mean, especially when you have eventually your joint chiefs of staff chairperson coming out saying, "Yeah, if I had known that was going to happen, I would never walked across the promenade." So, well, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how long he can do his stall tactics, which he's pretty good about. And I'd be interested in, if not at all, based upon how the actual appeal has been written, a denial of the appeal has been written by the actual 3 judges on the appeal court, whether or not the Supreme Court will even take it up.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, from what I've heard on the opinion, it's like it was pretty sound. They knocked every point that he had, and it's just like, and it's like I don't want to feel like everybody's thinking I'm just bashing on the Republicans and all that stuff. It's not. But it's like if you have something that is really sound or whatever, then I'm all for that. But what everything he was talking about wasn't.
Yeah, but I mean, in fairness to what you just said there about you're not bashing on Republicans, he's not a Republican.
Well, he's not.
He is MAGA. Let's just start a new party and they're called MAGA. And they're extremist psycho people who, that believe that they're above the law, period.
Because I grew up being a Republican. Mm-hmm. And
well,
so
actually, believe it or not, I was a Republican in the 80s.
I mean, so it's like I grew up being a Republican. And then it's like I started changing when the Republican Party started ruling on social issues. And then it's just like, all right, y'all are doing everything against me. And then just everything, it's just like I've slowly became more a Democrat. But it's not because all the issues or whatever, but it's just like I'm again, the extreme left, I'm totally against or whatever. Anything that the extreme left want and everything else, I'm totally against or whatever. But if it's having to be going with the extreme left or the right, who basically wants to kill all of my rights and everything else I can't. I mean, in their world, I can't be in existence. So until they stop that, and it's like, granted, I know most of the Republicans are not like that, but the ones that are in power are the ones that are trying to do all this stuff.
I don't know if the majority are or not like that. To be perfectly honest, it's because it's so blurred nowadays. What obviously made me a Republican at the time in the 80s was, I came from a military family, so I obviously strongly believed in defense. One, because it was our livelihood. That was, our family was there. But I also believed in we had to have a strong military. We had to obviously be, secured in regards to just our nation in of itself. And, my father served 26 years in the United States Air Force. And I mean, what he gave to the country for his service, during Vietnam and many other things, I mean, that's what made me partially a Republican. The other thing is, obviously, I don't like big government. I don't like necessarily a high astronomical amount of taxation. I do believe in certain social aspects of it that are a right versus an entitlement, and that, of course, as I've indicated previously, healthcare and education. But if you take, and of course, as we continue to, move forward in the decades since I was a Republican, obviously the defense budget has continued to increase, and it's actually more than, I think, almost 60% of our entire, budget that we have on an annual basis. I think it's like $700 billion or some crazy number out there, and knowing full well that, there are so many pork projects in that budget that are basically pet projects of all these Democrat and Republican senators, because they don't want to lose the votes and the power they have in that state, whether it loses a company that's making a certain product or a base that's there. So it's always a political game there. So I get the whole point about being Republican, but again, social issues obviously come into play in regards to what kind of like pulled me forward. But I mean, the thing that really kind of changed my whole thought process is just they're just pure hateful.
Not all of them, but the ones.
I'm not talking about the Republicans who are really true Republicans.
But the ones that are the extremists, and right now the extreme left is, the extreme right or is whatever. It's got control of the Republican Party.
Yeah, but there. To your point though, there are some extreme lefts that are just
loony
bins. Loony bins.
Both, and that's like where I say is everybody thinks I'm all for the extreme left, and I'm not. I'm totally against the extreme left.
There's definitely some loony bins there.
There's but the way politics is playing now is to get in power, you have to go to one extreme or the other extreme.
Right.
And it's like the middle of the road, the moderates are dropping off because they cannot.
Their voice isn't strong enough. They're not getting enough actual time on the airwaves because one of the extremes on either side have the money. So and of course, when it comes to the mainstream media, they're doing about like, we want clicks, we want headlines that are going to
And that's where we are right now. And with the social media, that's all that pops up is whatever is controversy or whatever it's going to do it or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's where the moderates, where I'm a moderate big time. It's like I slide a little to the left, I slide a little to the right, but it's like I'm more of a moderate.
Apparently, you slide everywhere.
Well, I'll try.
Well, let's kind of move on to that subject, because I guarantee you I could actually just hammer that all day long. I got a couple of other points that I want to talk about. I'll give you a chance as well at some point. Mm-hmm. But as you know, we are actually in an election year.
Yep.
So we actually have senators who are currently up for re-election.
Yes.
Specifically, somebody in our state, which is kind of like the crazy
don't
site.
like him.
Well, he is literally just
Grandpa on the Munsters.
Well,
If you've ever seen the show, The Munsters in the 60s, you look at Grandpa and you look at Ted Cruz, identical.
As you can tell, we are talking about Ted Cruz. But I get what you're saying in that regards. Obviously, that's not where I was going.
Okay.
If you don't know it, this is actually his third election to be as a U.S. senator.
He shouldn't have gotten his first one.
Well, that's nor here or there at this stage, simply because we're 12 years after the fact. But the point being is, he has actually just introduced a constitutional amendment. This is the second time he's done it, to ensure they have term limits for both senators and representatives. So basically what he's saying is, like, if you're a House of Representative, you should only be entitled to 3 two-term elections. So 6 years.
Okay.
As a senator, you should be entitled to 2 6 years, which is 12 years. But yet he's going for 18 now. So I mean, where is I mean, now of course he's trying to use the whole argument is like, well, the Senate's job's not done. It's like, well, if you couldn't got it done in the last 12 years, you think you're going to get it done in 18 years?
No, the reality is what popped in my head is, all right, so he's going to run this time. So if he wins, it'd be 3, so it'd be 18 years or whatever. He's probably not going to run again. So if you're not
he's going to try to run for president in 2028, even though it's not the end of his term.
But it's just like, but for Senate, he's probably done with it after doing the third term or whatever. So it's just like I'll do all this and limit everybody else's because it's like I'm not going to do it again because it's not going to be an effect come this election.
Well, he has declined to answer any questions specifically as to why he's seeking the third term.
He always declines to answer questions.
Yeah, and of course, have you ever watched him in one of the hearings where he just like never allows anybody to actually answer a question because as soon as they say senator, he jumps on there. I mean, literally, it's sound bites that he's looking for.
What was it, 2 years ago when Texas had the big freeze?
Oh, when he was in Cancun.
And he was in an airport going to Cancun with his family.
Oh, he was in Cancun.
Well, I know, but he tried.
They
showed up, but no, he went there. But they showed him in Dallas catching a flight to go.
Well, and he used the excuse that he had to take his wife and kids there.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they could have flown there themselves. I mean, they probably have flown all over the world by themselves without him accompanying them. But what I really want to emphasize, first of all, I'm kind of disappointed that there's not one Democrat who signed on to this actual constitutional amendment. But I'm going to tell you who has as a co-sponsor, which I thought is kind of ironic. And there's a list, so bear with me on this. So the crazy one, J.D. Vance of Ohio, he's obviously in his first term. Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, also in his first term. Again, remind these are all Republicans. Cynthia,
wait. Can I just make a comment real quick? You said J.D. Vance. Mm-hmm. This weekend, he was on TV.
He got slammed.
Basically saying that if the president doesn't believe that a Supreme Court's judgment is valid, then he can reject it. And he did that on what was it?
George
Stephanopoulos.
And he cut him off.
Actually, I saw that live or whatever, and he basically cut him off, and he kept trying to do it, and they just cut his mic off.
Obviously, I saw an outtake somewhere, but I thought that was extremely interesting, because, I mean, he's just a lunatic anyways, let's be honest with you. Cynthia Loomis of Wyoming, she's also in her first term. Roger Marshall of Kansas, also in his first term. Mike Lee of Utah, running for his third term. Steve Daines of Montana in his second term, which is up in 2026. Todd Young of Indiana in his second term, which is up in 2029. Mike Braun of Indiana, he's finishing his first term and running now for governor of Indiana. Rick Scott of Florida, he's running for his second term. I don't know what I would really like to call him, but like Run for My Life, Josh Hawley from Missouri, he's running for his second term. And then, of course, let me put national security at a risk and basically make fun of, President Biden falling downstairs and then I fall down the stairs, Tommy Tuberlin of Alabama in his first term. So these are the individuals who are actually co-signers on there. Now, I agree with them in regards to term limits. I'm 100% for that.
I totally agree with that.
And I actually believe in the time length that Cruz is talking about. What I have as a question is okay, so does that mean that Mike Lee of Utah should basically say, I'm not going to run for re-election now because that would give me 18 years? Does that also mean in 2026 that you're not going to have Steve Daines of Montana running again? Or in 2029?
They're hypocritical.
That's my whole point.
It just means that what it means is they'll do this because it's like, we'll get this because they can get this. If they're being elected this year, they're not going to run the next time.
Now, let's be honest. This isn't going to get passed. Again, this is a constitutional amendment. So obviously, not only does it have to get approved in Congress, signed by the actual president, but then also ratified by 2/3 of the states.
Oh, I will tell you the easiest part of that is let the states. The states are so pissed off at politicians. They think they're there forever and all that stuff is. I guarantee you that would pass all the states. As long as it gets to that level, let it go and it will pass.
I would definitely hope.
No, it would. No, it would because people are so pissed off at politicians.
Yeah, well, I just find it ironic because they know it's not going to pass. It's not going to become a constitutional amendment. They're doing it all for political play and headlines.
I'm shocked.
Well, we're not. But, I mean, obviously we're here to give our unfiltered conversation and opinions. And, I mean, it's just what I have an issue with all this is I understand politics. I get it. Obviously you're going to just spin. But what I'm disappointed with is nobody's calling them on their bullshit on the news medias, the mainstream news. I mean, you sit here and even though George Stephanopoulos cut off J.D. Vance, he didn't. I mean, he made one statement that really didn't go into the reason really why he was cutting him off. And J.D. Vance was like talking out his ass.
Just doing just saying something one time is not going to go anywhere. So it's just like,
that you're absolutely right. Then why all of them aren't saying it is my point. So now
because they're all into it for themselves. Yeah. They don't want to.
Well, that's my soapbox. So I mean,
I know
what you got for us.
Well, speaking of that, I mean something that I totally understand everything you said or whatever, but I totally believe that the American people voting you have to vote. It makes a total difference. And I will give you a prime example.
Well, I mean, before you give that example, I mean, I want to clarify where I'm standing on that. You're absolutely right, because if anything in 2016 election doesn't tell you how much Hillary lost that election for, that voting does count, doesn't tell you that it makes a difference, I don't know what will.
I agree. And that's where it's like everybody gets so frustrated because the politicians right now, it's bad on both sides.
Absolutely.
Totally, or whatever, the extremes or whatever. Everybody wants to be, the majority of the people are in the middle. Mm-hmm. And basically we're now getting lost because we either got to take a side on the extreme left or the extreme right. And
we're not getting airplay.
Well, because that's not what happens. That's not where you're going to get your clicks. That's not what gets the ratings and all this other stuff is. But one thing I just want to tell everybody is like voting does make a difference, and so you need to vote. And it's like you can make a difference. Did you hear about the measure 113 in Oregon?
Heard something about it, but I mean, I think you have more details.
All right. Well, so then basically, Oregon is more of a Democratic state. And so the Republicans are kind of like the minority. So it's like whenever the Democrats want to do some of their bills or whatever, then ultimately the Republican senators would leave the state. So then that way, because there's a law.
Isn't that similar to what they did here in Texas?
Well, they did, except
but that was Democrats.
But it was the Democrats. So it's like both sides play this game or whatever. But basically in Oregon is you have to have a certain amount of people in session
for quorum
to basically do anything.
Right.
And that's how it's kind of like with my kind of most things. So like I said, both sides play all this stuff. But in 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021, the Republicans, basically the senators just left the state. And so then that way they closed down and shut everything up.
Not just left the chamber, but left the state.
They left the state.
Where'd they go?
I don't know, and that's not the point. That's not the point to all this stuff.
I know there's 3 different states. There's Washington, there's Montana, I think Wyoming as well.
So basically, ultimately, the people in Oregon got pissed off, and they ultimately in 2022.
When you say people who?
The Oregon people in Oregon,
the
voters.
Okay. Common folk.
Okay, the common folk. They got tired of all these games being played.
Right.
So in 2022, they passed an amendment that went extremely high in voting turnout or whatever, that basically you can only miss 10 times.
Oh, it's like the Rule 65 you have.
Yeah. I'm into this stuff or whatever. So ultimately, you can only have 10 unexcused for these sessions or whatever. Right. So it was passed. And so, I mean, it's now in their constitution or whatever. So, the voters did it. They passed it. So then in 2023, I think there's 12 senators. Well, 10 of them left for like 6 weeks or whatever.
Wow.
It was
And most of the states, sessions aren't that long.
It was the law. I mean, it was supposedly the longest period that some in any state or whatever, and all this other stuff is. Well, now these 10 people, Oregon senators, they can't run for re-election.
Right.
And they fought it. It went to the Supreme Court in Oregon, and they said it's the law. You can't do this, so you cannot run. And so now it's like you have 10 of the 12 state senators, Republican senators in Oregon, cannot run for re-election this year.
Interesting.
Now, they are ultimately trying to appeal it to make it a federal thing, because they're basically saying is that their First Amendment right is that they can protest, so they're trying to go the federal route.
Yeah, but is that what they did? I mean, did they verbally say they were protesting the sessions?
It doesn't matter. They're trying any way they can to do
I
it.
get what you're saying, but I mean, obviously, in order for you to emphasize freedom of speech, the First Amendment, obviously you have to project what you're
But in
you're
reality, we're
speaking about.
talking Oregon. These are Oregon state senators.
No, I get that.
And Oregon passed a rule.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I'm saying is voters, let's pass rules that force these people, that hold them accountable. So these 10 guys are now going to have to be held accountable.
Let's kind of do a little spin on that one, because you're absolutely right. States, individuals have a right to pass certain things in their own constitution, which is apparently what the Oregon people have done.
That's what this is.
And it was literally, if we do it based upon abortion, the Republicans said that it's about states' decisions and states' rights. The individuals who live in a state have the right to decide for themselves what it is. So, I mean, again, this is a clear picture of hypocrisy that we're seeing in regards to the Republicans and what they're trying to do here. It's like, I want my cake and eat it too.
Because nobody wants to be held accountable. And this goes on the same side if this happened to the Democrats too.
But it
I'm
has
all
nothing
for
to do,
if
but
you
this,
whatever the
this
rules
particular
are.
thing has nothing to do about accountable. They basically want to create their own rules when they want to create those rules. So obviously, I'm going to say that you
and
can't
as long as the rules stay, there's nothing that says you can't.
But
then
again,
then you have to live with it.
But again, as a Republican, they're going to say, I, as a state senator, have the right to decide whether or not in our legislation process that a woman can have an abortion or, choose what she can do medically with her body. But now you're sitting here saying that, oh, no, I can't be elected because the folks of my state decided that if I don't actually show up for work that they've elected me for, oh, no, that's free. That's a federal thing now. So,
damn right. I mean, not damn right. It's a federal thing, but it's like any employee in the U.S., all of us, is if we kept missing work for all these times, we would be canned.
Well, unless you have unlimited PTO, which again is a scam. Let's be honest.
That's true.
But
it's just like but like I said, is Oregon got fed up with all this stuff and they passed a law that went into their constitution that said you can't do this anymore. And the Republicans knew all this stuff and they went gone for 6 weeks, and now they're realizing what they can do or whatever. So I'm just abused. And it's like if the roles were reversed, I'd be okay. I'd be okay with that. It's because it's like politics is the American people have got to hold our politicians to.
Well, consider that we're paying them to do their damn job. Absolutely. Let's be honest. I mean, first of all, let's look at it. I mean, we're paying $174,000 per congressperson that we have federally.
Oh, wait. They're getting more than just that.
Well, no, we won't. That's
they're getting
just
free
the base.
health care. They're getting free all this other stuff.
First, I'm just saying that's the base, $174,000. Obviously, you have a lot of perks and per diem and benefits and things of that sort that most Americans do not. So you're obviously your entire package, which we are paying for, and we're the ones who put you in office is much higher.
And then when they close the government,
then
they still get paid.
It's not just that. It's like, I mean, out of 365 days in the year, I think it's like 117 that they're actually in session. And then a lot of them also have these side gigs and all this, so running their own companies and things of that sort. It's like, but they're not doing the people's work. So my point is, like, if I actually earned $174,000 for 117 days of work, I'd be a happy camper because the rest of the time I'd be traveling the world.
I just want the moderates to get more control and get rid of the extreme on the left and the right.
We've wanted that for decades.
I
now,
know.
and it's not going to happen anytime soon. Trust
But
me.
I will tell you but what Oregon did on this measure, they they made their stand on one aspect and it goes for either side.
But you literally had a more center left group of individuals to kind of like push that agenda. I mean, that's one state out of 50.
But you're talking about they shut down the government. The Oregon government could not do anything.
They couldn't legislate. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and so that's the part is where they took a stand or whatever, and that's where I'm just saying is the moderates need to kind of start taking control over this. And I know it's hard because it's like we're just wanting to go through life or whatever, but it's like you got the two extremes, and it's like they've taken control. It's like the moderates have just got to basically we're fed up with this bullshit, and it's just like, come on, let's do some common sense stuff.
Well, just common sense legislation. Just do the job.
But the only way that's going to happen is that the moderates can take over.
Well,
And that's nothing easy.
We can definitely hope.
But I admire Oregon. Here's to Oregon. A drink, whatever, if they're making their one step.
I definitely raised my cocktail and I tip my hat to them. There is no doubt that finally the people spoke and they actually got what they deserved, meaning the Republican GOP senators. So
Yes.
you know, there's a couple things. I mean, because obviously I can't go, especially lately, a podcast without mentioning
Who?
Taylor Swift.
Damn, we do this every time. Okay.
We do. You know, again, I mean, I literally am loving, and this is actually a Republican who's actually saying something positive about her. And granted, she is not exactly the shining star of the Republican Party, you know, because they booted her out of the leadership and they eventually voted her out of office. But that's Liz Cheney, who by all means, I literally have maybe nothing in common with her policy-wise. I mean, I think that she's an extreme in regards of right and conservative values and stuff like that, especially coming from a state that only has 250,000 people. But I thought it was absolutely just golden when she came out over the weekend and said that Taylor Swift is a national treasure. Now, I would hope that she said it and genuinely meant it versus just to drive the stake a little bit more in the GOP and the MAGA people. And to stir it up, which I do think that she's very good at, and I think that's really kind of a lot of her, processes on what she's doing nowadays. But I will definitely say I don't know if I'd call Taylor Swift the national treasure, but I'm going to commend Liz Cheney on saying that, and I literally have only said that once or twice about Liz Cheney. Obviously, the 1-6 committee and how she came out about the election and specifically about Trump and his insurrection, things of that sort.
Well,
So
I admire Liz Cheney. I mean, because she's got integrity.
She has balls.
I mean, she believes in what she believes, and I might not believe
And she's passionate about it.
everything
She's
she
passionate
does is, but she's all for fair play and all this other stuff is, and it's like you got all these other people that are just playing games and all this stuff, isn't she not? I could see Liz being the first female president.
Well, that scares the shit out of me.
But I could see it because it's like you have a lot of middle of the road people that.
Well,
would
for
vote
you,
for
I
her.
mean, obviously, her sister being lesbian, you should be all right then. So, but anyways,
okay.
the last point that I want to bring up, is and I think I talked to you this about when we were texting each other the other day, and I mean, first of all, there's dating apps out there like crazy, for all different walks of life, help everybody and whatever. Hell, there's even like dates for dating apps for married people who want to get with another married person. I mean, you name it. There's all types out there.
Of course.
I do not have any paid dating apps out there myself. I have some out there, but I'm not on any paid one. But I thought it was very interesting.
You mean they paid you to be on the app?
No, I don't pay to be on the app.
Okay.
But I thought it was very interesting that I got this email the other day from Tinder. And basically they say that I am being invited, again, I'm not paid on there, invited to be on a select group of individuals.
Because you're so hot and...
I don't know what the reasoning behind it is.
Okay.
Because it's definitely not because I'm giving them money. So I was like, I am curious. I am curious, one, to see what the benefits are. But more importantly, how much is this going to cost? So I literally went through the process of getting up to the point of actually paying for it. And
You paid for it?
I did not. I was just flabbergasted on that. And I know there are celebrity apps out there that only certain individuals can get on, and there's they pay astronomical price because they want confidentiality and anonymity and all that stuff. The price for this select individuals was $500
Oh my God.
a month.
Couldn't you just go on Grindr and just
Well,
get
I
something
don't know
for
about
free?
that, but there's Hinge, there's Tinder, there's Bumble, all that stuff out there. But I'm like, are you kidding me? $500, $6,000 a year
Oh my God.
to be on an. Now, obviously, then they must think that I'm in a category of like wealthy people, which I'm clearly not. Because for them to send me that when I don't even pay for the app in the first place, and I know that you have it.
I do.
I don't know if you pay for it. Do you? I think you do.
I don't know. You set it up for me.
But I think you're on either a gold or a platinum
think
membership.
yeah.
You're paying for it and you haven't gotten it. So I don't know where their whole kind of like demographic analysis that actually said it sent it to me that I'm going to spend $500 when I'm not paying you a damn dime already. But the fact of the matter is, like, if you're going to have me pay $500, they better be able to, the person that I eventually hook up with, they better be able to pay for that and everything else for the rest of my life, because that's just crazy.
Totally.
I'm just flabbergasted. Again, I know there's celebrity ones out there and these, millionaire ones they have as well and all that. But
Well, I know, but they got free apps. If you just want to hook up, you can hook up.
Well, obviously it's more for dating purposes and stuff like that, and some out there. Obviously, there are some hookup ones there. But I was just floored that they would think that I would actually be wanting to pay $500 to get on a. Well, they say Tinder's more of a hookup app, but unless the red carpet was rolled out and gold was thrown at me, I'm not going to pay $500.
Every app out there, it has probably a start one meaning, but it all revolves into to hooking up with somebody.
Well, no, ultimately, there are a couple apps out there. Hinge is one of them. Hinge is the philosophy is that you match with somebody, you go on a couple of dates, and the whole idea is to delete the app because you now have a committed person for life.
Well, wasn't that like eHarmony?
Well, that was the Christian one. But now obviously that's gone across the entire demographic space of all that. So I just thought it was just very interesting and kind of blew my mind when I went through that whole process. And needless to say,
Because they got to figure out how to make money.
well, I
this.
hit cancel right away because it's like, oh hell no, because if they got my credit card in any way or fashion or form, I am not going to see that $500 a month come out of my account.
Yes.
I just think it's just wild. Well, obviously we got through quite a bit of stuff today. I've really enjoyed it.
Totally.
And we want to thank everybody who actually joined us today on Buddies, Booze, and Banter, Unfiltered Conversation. I am Rick.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Alex.
And remember, vote. It makes a difference. We can make a difference, moderates. We just got to find the right thing to vote on.
We'll see you later.